This has been quite the year, 2020. But one thing that has been a beacon of light for so many families, trying to find that perfect Christmas tree. And so many families have decided to go with a real tree rather than a fake tree. And that has been good news for area farmers. Joining us now on the Oakland County MegaCast, Scott Powell. He's the Nursery Manager for Dutchman Tree Farms. Great to have you with us, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks for having us today.
So has this been a good year for tree farmers?
It has been. I know 2020 started off in the spring, a little bit of a scare for farmers of what was going to happen, much like many garden centers did. But 2020 ended up doing really well for us as Christmas tree farmers and anybody really in the green industry in Michigan.
But with that, it's hard to gauge what the need is going to be from year to year because you start planning, what, 5, 6, 7 years ago?
Well, really, most of the trees we harvested this year, the 7 to 8 foot tree, was planted as a seed all the way back in 2008 or 2009. So seed to harvest, when we see maybe folks are having a rough time finding a tree this year, it stems up back all the way to the recession that we experienced 11, 12 years ago.
So now where is your tree farm?
We're located up in Missaukee County, just north of Cadillac in Lake City and Manton, Michigan.
How many acres? And is this part of your family? How did you get into this?
Yeah, so presently we're farming around 10,000 acres in 11 northern Michigan counties and a couple counties in Wisconsin. We started 1972, so this is our 48th harvest. My father-in-law started selling trees at the Atlanta Farmers Market in Georgia, and we've really just grown since then. Presently, there's 8 family members involved and another 500 and some employees during harvest that just help us get our product to market, whether it be a cut tree, tabletop, a container grown product, or wreaths and greenery.
Yeah, so can you walk us through what that process is like once you decide to harvest a tree?
Yeah, so trees are harvested. We start by shearing and tagging, the harvestable crop. But those trees are sheared every year for about 5, 6 years leading up to harvest. So, but during the year of harvest, we're looking at fertilizing and just constant pest management practices. We shear the tree, we tag them for not only height but also grade and quality. Then we begin to transition the process in harvest, October, November, when some trees are cut because we are a larger wholesale farm. That process, we cut the tree, we bale it, we drag it, we load them from the field into our loading yard, which is our loading yard is about 100-acre woods. And then, we end up shipping. Our busiest week was about 1,300 semi-loads of product going out. So going from 0 to 60 is very common for us.
Oh my gosh, it's so much work that goes into it. I think the public just really doesn't understand the depth and the magnitude it takes to grow the perfect Christmas tree.
Well, we try. We always try to grow the best crop for the best purpose, for the best reason, with the best people. And as we look at growing our crop, it does. It's not something that where many farmers can just say, hey, last year was soybeans, this year's corn. We have to make a constant transition. We have to make a long-term plan for what our acreage is going to be and when fields are going to be in rotation.
And how does the weather play in what to harvest and when?
So different species, they can handle a longer shelf life than others. Your pines can handle a longer time being cut, whereas some of your firs, your Fraser fir, excellent needle retention. So those are really kind of the next product. Your spruces and your balsam and your Douglas fir, shorter shelf life. So those are always the last products we cut just prior to shipping. Whether it's going to a corner retail lot or a box store chain or the corner retail lot that pops up. We're always trying to hit the market just right, or we're always trying to speculate when it's going to be. But the shelf life, a lot of it does depend upon weather. Christmas 2019, we had 2 feet of snow from Halloween all the way through Thanksgiving. So that really slowed our crews down. It's hampered harvest. Christmas 2020, a much better season, but we had a different weather condition. The week after Halloween was in the 70s up here in northern Michigan. And so that was it was a big challenge for a lot of folks.
It's Scott Powell with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. He's the nursery manager for Dutchman Tree Farms up in northern Michigan. And what's it been like for this year? Because I know the tree lot by my home, they're from up north. They come down, they bring a camper, but they sold out quickly.
You know, we thought 2020 was going to be a big year. You know, when times are challenging, people want to find what's normal, what brings people together. You know, if you go back to 2001, you had a bad experience with 9/11. It was a good selling year for tree farmers. You look at Hurricane Katrina, when that came through in 2005, that was a really big year for tree farmers in the South, or retail sectors. People want to draw into that normalcy, that closeness, that familyness. And so we kind of anticipated it was going to be big. In addition to there being an undersupply of trees, we did not anticipate that folks that were normally open the first 3 weekends or 4 weekends would be sold out Thanksgiving weekend already. And we saw that across the country. It wasn't just an isolated thing in Michigan. It was across the country. You know, we shipped to 44 states this year, and that was a common thread all the way across.
Wow, 44 states for trees that came from right here in Michigan.
Yeah, and it's, you know, whether it's a corner retail lot or the chain store or the garden center, you know, we kind of pride ourselves in being able to provide a big variety. We're not growing just one species, we're growing 15 different species. And then we're also doing roping and wreaths. You know, we harvested above 800,000 trees this year. We ended up producing over 500,000 wreaths and made about 100 miles of Christmas garland. So, you know, we do pride ourselves in being able to provide not only a diversified product, different species, but kind of providing the whole Christmas basket for these folks.
Yeah, so with the garland and the wreaths and like the porch pots, they seem to have grown in popularity over the past few years. I think a lot of it has to do maybe with Pinterest, but also you have this year, so many people are at home. Have you seen that market change over the past 10, 15 years?
It has. You know, we started really making wreaths back in 2011. And so in the last 9 years, we've basically gone from 1,000 wreaths to 500,000 wreaths. And just the market has boomed, but the DIYs, the do-it-yourself, the decorate your home, that has taken off. You know, before it was an East Coast kind of program or a Chicago area kind of mindset, but it's taken off everywhere. We have a small choose and cut farm located right next to the main office here. That a bunch of the nieces and nephews that are all teenagers, they all run the program. We do about 1,000 off that choose and cut. We normally did about 100 wreaths there, all decorated and fancy. We ended up doing over 250 there this year. But a lot of those craft shows and those little things were closed down this year due to COVID. And so I think because of that and a lot of the smaller, I'll call them mom and pop situations or stores, those kind of, they really saw a resurgence this year as well.
So Scott, what's it take to try to manage and navigate the trends in the different regions since you ship so many different places?
Well, I just returned as well as two of my brother-in-laws. One, we hit a lot of different parts of the country, kind of see what the trends are. And one was in the South. I was in the Northeast, kind of seeing what are the trends, what's going on, what is coming on. But every 2 years, we end up going to a Christmas show in Europe, trying to see what is coming up. Because Europe's always a few years ahead trend-wise, as is Toronto or Montreal. And so we try to speculate what's going to happen. What are the trends that are coming up? And looking at that, you can't make that transition on trees, but you can in supplemental products and the other Christmas accessories.
Yeah, last year I started seeing gnomes, and then this year they've been everywhere.
Yeah, that has taken off. We didn't see too many in the bigger box stores, but you did see them in the smaller garden centers. Whether it was a small, 12-inch gnome made out of Christmas greenery, or if it was a felt gnome that kind of had a couple sprigs added to it. But it did really take off this year. As at the same time, the Bergeron or the red and black plaid, that is kind of almost on a downward kind of cycle, maybe a little bit. But also the Christmas trucks with the tree in the back, that's kind of coming on as well. So we're kind of looking at all aspects for the Christmas accessories, but the DIYs is really booming. A lot of garden centers and retail, you can buy the sticks and the pine cones and the branches and buy it all and take it home, decorate your own porch spot how you want to do it.
Yeah, this year I actually made my own gnome for the front porch, but also my arborvitaes in the front. They're really tall. I turned them into gnomes because I'm like, you have to have a theme. You can't just throw up Christmas lights. If you're going to put decorations, you need a theme. And this year, my theme has been the gnome.
Well, it's very good. We can't all be the Clark Griswolds of the world, but as long as maybe we're doing our part, we're keeping part of Northern Michigan moving.
So we are in the middle of a pandemic still as well. How has COVID-19 impacted your business there?
Well, it did start in the spring. The spring digging, a lot of the garden centers, nurseries were closed down in the state. We were exempted for spring work, thankfully, and so we were able to get our crops planted. And we were able to move our bare root stock and some nursery container stock to out-of-state markets. And then when the state did open back up, we had a cold spell, so we were able to keep digging and keep that spring going. And thankfully we were, because with folks being home or not traveling, they had some additional resources, and a lot of those home projects ended up getting done. Come August, we ended up having mandated COVID testing due to the size of our farm, and because we also have housing available to our employees. And so we had mandated COVID testing of all employees and all new hires and anyone with any symptoms. And so there was well over 600 tests that were administered at our farm. And we ended up having to quarantine people occasionally, no different than a lot of other businesses had to face.
Yeah.
We ended up going with some social distancing, and we put, with over 1,500 different truckers coming into our property, we put remote check-ins, just try to isolate and create separation as best we could.
Has it been hard for you to get employees? Because a lot of businesses have been struggling in that area.
Springtime was hard. The first COVID stimulus package that came out, we really couldn't get any local workers. Thankfully, we got an awesome group of local teenage kids that our friends are all friends with. They really pulled us through springtime because they were off of school, and the remote virtual learning really hadn't solidified real solid, and so they had some time. And so, those teenagers really pulled us through in the spring. This fall, we'd love to see local workers, but the reality that many, not just in Northern Michigan, faces, this is hard manual labor. And so really 25 years ago, we started running a visa program where we bring in visa workers to help with the seasonality of what we do, because, in a town of 800 people and you're hiring 500, it creates a little bit of a challenge.
A big challenge. So Scott, a lot of people do obviously already have their Christmas trees and they're up. Any words of wisdom and advice you can share for them to at least keep it somewhat alive until after the first of the year?
Well, it all started, when you first got that tree, was giving it a fresh cut and putting it in water within a couple hours. And not allowing the cambium layer, the sap to harden off in the bottom of the tree. So it starts that first moment, and then just keeping that water level above. Your tree's going to drink a lot of water that first week particularly, and then eventually it's going to kind of hold its own. The other big thing is keep it away from heat sources or direct sunlight through windows. It gets quite warm, it can dry the tree out, and just making sure you're on top of maybe keeping your pets and animals out of the water bowl as well.
Should you add supplements to the water? I think sometimes I've heard like maybe if you put sugar in it, it helps keep the tree fresher longer, or those just old wives' tales?
Well, there are a lot of wives' tales out there. There are products out there that claim that they'll help with needle retention 10 or 20%, or the old grandma's analogy was put sugar in the water. What we found and what we really advertise is fresh cut, fresh water.
Just keep it simple.
That's right.
Scott Powell joining us here on the Oakland County Megacast. He's the nursery manager for Dutchman Tree Farms here in the state of Michigan. Thank you so much for being with us. Before I let you go, anything maybe we didn't touch on that you want to let people know?
The greatest thing that we are able to do is we work with the greatest people. We grow the greatest crop, and for the greatest reason. That's the celebration of the birth of Christ. So thanks for having us. Merry Christmas to you and everybody watching and listening this morning.
Well, to you and your team as well. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.